Welcome to Got Your Back YEG as Season 2 continues, brought to you by Mr. Dirk, the iconic men's clothing store in Edmonton, founded in 1939. If you've never been, you have to check it out, just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. We got a beautiful new shop, formerly Dirk's. Mr. Dirk has everything you need for every aspect of your wardrobe. They got a huge lineup of casual clothes, jeans, pants, shirts, sweaters, shoes. They're not just formals, folks. Mr. Dirk has what you need to look great every single day and to elevate your wardrobe. And then as far as coats and ties and suits and all that goes, customs, everything you need to make yourself look fantastic as you are heading to work. As we check in with Chris Sabunia, Zuby in Kelowna, and Struddy. Struddy, I'm feeling resentment towards you. People don't know this. We got up stupid early to record this podcast, all because of you.
Well, it's like they say, right? The early bird gets the tadpole. So we all got to get up early, get this day started. I've come from a long line of farmers, dairy farmers and grain. So let's get this going and get it done and get it out the door.
You're farming manure so far this morning. Tadpoles. What does that even mean? Early birds and tadpole. I don't know. And Zuby, it's worse for you. You're an hour behind us, buddy.
Yeah, it's nice to know that all our fans out east, out in Toronto, will be able to have this for their morning commute today. that makes me happy.
You know what's crazy is that, Zuby, you and I are grinding out on this one. We're excited to get season 2, but Schauger, it doesn't stop for there. I stopped there for you. I see that you now have a second project you're working out on for Got Your Back.
Yeah. We announced it yesterday. Got Your Back NHL with Pierre LeBrun and friends. Yeah, we're going to get that going next week. I don't know. I just thought that maybe it was important to have a Got Your Back property that had some somewhat intelligent conversation on it, Struds, instead of the mess that we're constantly making on this one. But
ouch,
that sting.
Jeez,
see, I told you I was bitter.
Better looking pod.
My heart is dark.
It's not better looking podcast. Better beer.
Yeah.
No, just kidding, Zuby. Yours is my favorite. You're my favorite beer in these podcasts.
And just so you know, Struds, like Zuby's on that one with me. Like you're kind of the one.
I'm grinding there too.
Yeah,
I'm grinding there as well.
Well, I tell you, Pierre doesn't dress as well as I do. We all know that for sure.
I don't know about that. But Struddy, we'll have you on that one for sure at some point. But look forward to Got Your Back NHL edition. That one's getting set to go next week. All right, Zuby, we'll check in with you in a little bit. Struds, we got lots to deal with here. Ken Holland yesterday did a 42-minute media availability. Man, was it ever lengthy, but let's get to the breakdown, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. They got locations in Calgary and Edmonton, beautiful maintenance-free vinyl, fencing, and decking. The beautiful thing about this stuff, you put it in once, and then you can just sit back year after year and never have to worry about sanding or staining. You never have to worry about any kind of upkeep. It is high-quality vinyl product, goes right into your yard. They've got a fantastic system for putting in this maintenance-free fence, post pounders, no digging holes, no nothing. So if you're a contractor out there and you're putting in fence, you got to give vinyl a go through DLR Vinyl because it is maintenance-free. It's easier to put in, all around great products. Call my brothers Rick in Edmonton or Rob in Calgary at DLR Vinyl Products. So 42 minutes from Ken Holland yesterday on day number 1, Struddy. Was there a headline for you as you listened to it? What bounced out to you and had you going, huh?
Well, I think that the discussion surrounding Jake Virtanen, that's a pretty big one there. His talk about believing the legal system and why he brought him in, that the conversations they had, any relationship they have, and it doesn't sound like they had one prior to this PTO offer. That to me is a really big one because I'm trying to wrap my head around why, understanding why the need for a guy with this around him, who I don't think is a massive upgrade to perhaps what they have already. So
yeah.
He talked about it. Jake has 2 weeks to either shine or to not, and then we'll see where it goes. So 2 weeks, the clock started yesterday.
Yeah, I know. You know what? We're going to go to the sound box here right away, Struds, because you brought it up. But here's what Ken Holland had to say when I asked him a question about the idea that there's two sides to this, right? There's the hockey side, but then there's also I'll use the word moral side, because Ken Holland actually used that phrasing in his article with Daniel Nugent-Bowman, that he would figure out the moral side if and when it came to offering him a contract. He sort of reiterated that yesterday.
If we think over the next 2 weeks that he's somebody that can make us better, deeper, he's an NHL player, then I'm going to have to weigh what you're talking about much more depth. So I guess this is one step along the way.
We really beat this to death in episode 1 of season 2, Strud, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on it. I made the point then, I'll make it again now. If you believe there may be a moral issue with having Jake Virtanen in training camp, and by the way, once again, found not guilty by a jury of his peers on a single charge of sexual assault. But if as an organization you think there might be a moral issue with having him in for whatever reason, I think you determine that ahead of time before you invite him. That would be my suggestion on that front.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's step one. I think if he's here in camp, I think that decision's been made already. Now it's up to the on-ice product. I think conditioning, to me, makes a big deal for Jake. His commitment to the team. As a coach, you don't want to have to be, wondering, question mark, is my third or fourth line right winger going to be ready to play and able to play? So I think that the moral piece, I'm guessing, has been made already. If he's here, you've made that choice already.
Okay, moving on. Jesse Puljujarvi, boy, hot topic, continues to be, probably will always be as long as he continues to play here in this market. We asked Ken Holland I asked him basically, is the player okay with whatever role that he's going to be given? We know that at the end of last season, he expressed some frustration about a number of different things, the way he was used, the way the season ended up, where his minutes were, all those things. And there have been trade requests that have kind of come and gone. But here's Ken Holland talking about Jesse Puljujarvi and his willingness to accept whatever role they may have for him. It sounds like the team is kind of throwing the gauntlet down and saying, if you want it, earn it.
Like I said, the last half of the year is greatly reduced. In the playoffs, I maybe was playing 10 minutes a night. We're trying to win. The coach is trying to win. So fresh start, fresh opportunity. And I mean, that was the message today. There's a competition out there, and he's got to go out here over the next 2 weeks and 8 preseason games, and he's got to try to get a bigger piece of the pie. I think he was frustrated with the way the year ended. I think he was frustrated, probably a little bit personally, that he wasn't able to probably produce a little bit more offense. I think he got frustrated that his role changed. I mean, he was playing more minutes, I think, early on. But when you're playing good, you play more. And when you're not, when you get those minutes and you don't produce, then coaches make changes.
So at the end of the season, he expresses frustration, Struddy. We all saw what happened in the playoffs. He was lucky he wasn't healthy scratched. I mean, that's how far he got away from his game. He literally couldn't take the puck and skate 40 feet and almost looked like he didn't want the puck to try and skate 40 feet with it. So frustration at the end of the year after his performance, and I think you kind of go, that doesn't add up, right? So the messaging heading into this season is, go out and earn it. They're supposed to be a winning team. You have to go out and earn it. How do you think Ken handled it yesterday?
I think he's very clear. He was very clear where his expectations are for Jesse and what is needed for him. My hope for Puljujarvi is that after the season, he sat down with the coaching staff and said, what are the issues? Like, what am I missing? Like, I remember I went through it one time. My ice time went down, and at times it went up, but this time it went down big time. And I said, "What are the problems? Tell me what I have to work on." And they were very clear. They stated it out. So if I'm the Oilers coach and I'm asked that question, I'm saying, Jesse, if you want to play with Connor or Leon, more often than not, when you get a grade A chance, you have to score. And not that we need a ton of scoring, but when you're playing with Leon or Connor, these guys expect you to bury. They expect you to bury the chances you get more often than not. Otherwise, they get frustrated. And that is a fact. That is the way those top guys are programmed. Because you know what? They like their points too. They want to get points when they set you up for an easy play. It's not just limited to that, but I think that's a big one. Because if you can't do that, the top guys, they don't want to be with you. It's a nice story. And yes, I'm stated, I like Jesse Puljujarvi. I think he's a player in the NHL. I see him as a third line player
Okay,
today,
let me
now.
challenge you a little bit on that statement that you just made about how the
Yeah.
top guys expect you to bury or they get frustrated, because we've heard
Yeah.
multiple times about how much they love playing with Kyler Yamamoto, how he is an often requested line mate. 8 goals in 2021. He hasn't exactly blown the doors off offensively. Last season obviously was a lot better. He got it up to 20.
Yeah.
But there were long stretches where Yamamoto wasn't scoring and burying, and I don't get the sense there was the same frustration. For some reason, there's something in Puljujarvi's game that I think probably was frustrating. He was that guy that was kind of all over the place, throwing his line mates offside all the time, and maybe a bit of frustration in his East-West game. But has there been a different standard for Yamamoto than Puljujarvi in that top 6 right wing spot?
I would say that when you're with Yamamoto, I would not change my comments for him either. I think that he doesn't. I don't feel that he gets as many great scoring chances or creates as many for himself, gets in the right place as Puljujarvi. In my mind, I might be wrong. Someone with a calculator is probably telling me I'm wrong, but I feel like yes, he's in the right spot for those shots, those chances more often than Yamamoto is. And I'm thinking of, and I know it's only one time, but specifically in the playoffs, I think it was against Avs. The puck came to him by himself in front, misses. This needed to be a goal, and that was a game-changing moment. I remember. I can't tell you the exact time, but it was a game-changing moment. So that is one incident. I recognize that, but I don't think there's a double standard there. I think that with both Yamamoto and Puljujarvi, they service their centers. They do the right things, but I think Puljujarvi needs to finish, and I'd say Yamamoto needs to as well. I'm not going to limit to him. I'd even put Nugent Hopkins in that box as well. You need, when you are getting set up by elite players, they expect you to score. That is why you're on that line.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens on the right side on the top 2 lines. Zach Hyman potentially can move over and play the right if he needs to. If Dylan Holloway makes a dent over on the left side, Warren Fogle can even move over, which, by the way, Ken Holland made a point of mentioning yesterday that Warren Fogle played some right in Carolina. So that right side is going to be interesting to monitor through training camp. Darnell Nurse, I want to talk about him. He had a media availability yesterday as well. I submit to you, Struds, that the single most important thing Darnell Nurse can do with this new contract is to focus on being the absolute best defender he can possibly be and not stress about offensive numbers at all. With that contract, people are going to always tie that number to offense and say, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I think you got to scrap that idea. They're going to get offense from Bouchard. They're going to get offense from Barrie. This team is not going to have trouble scoring goals. He's on the ice the most. He needs to have the best defending year of his career under this new contract. Never mind pushing numbers.
Yeah, that's something I've been screaming since the end of the season. That's kind of how he is used underneath the new coaching staff by Dave Manson specifically, I guess, as a D-man coach. I want to, draw a bit of a parallel between he and Ceci to Parayko and Bouwmeester when they won the Stanley Cup with St. Louis. As I watched those series, I know that you were there for a lot of those. What I saw was 2 players that crunched minutes and ate the hardest competition every single night. It's a hard game of hockey. It's hard because you can't let your guard down when you're out there against every other shift against other teams' top line. It's hard, but that's the role. That's the role I think that they need him to do. So it frees up other players to have a different type of play a different type of game and maybe not those concerns. But he and Ceci will have to fire that up. And so for Nurse, there's other players with a high contract number. Like let's be honest, there's other guys like Seth Jones isn't exactly an animal there in Chicago. Werenski in Columbus got a high deal as well. These guys, that was the contract that was set. That was the number that was being thrown around because Oilers were unable to sign him longer term earlier. So now you live with it and you figured out the best way he can help your team. This isn't about living up to a contract or a standard that fans or media believe. They need to put him in a position to do the best possible job he can for this team. And what role is that? I think we both agree it's being a minute-eating top line playing against defenders.
16 goals a couple of seasons ago. And I think when he did that, people look at it and go, number one power play guy potentially. Then you bring in Tyson Barrie, that changes things. If Darnell Nurse finishes this season with 9 goals and I don't know, 39 points or 43 points, people are going to look at the contract and they're going to look at that total and they're going to jump to a conclusion. I think the story of Darnell Nurse earning that money and the standard that needs to be set for him is all about defending. This team needs him to be a beast defensively this season. And he basically said as much yesterday, too. One more quick Oiler note before we move on to Nathan McKinnon. Let's listen to Mark Spector and Evander Kane in conversation yesterday.
I think he was frustrated.
Oh, that's Ken Holland. Here he is.
When last season ended, because of the cap and how many goals you scored, it seemed there's no way you're signing here.
You're right.
I guess maybe we can ask you how that slowly turned around and you end up signing here. And, was it a surprise to you?
The cap is a shitty thing for an NHL player, especially a good one. But no, it's like I said, this is a great opportunity.
Well, what do you think, buddy? That's Evander Kane just being Evander Kane, letting it loose and letting his true feelings be known. What'd you make of that?
Well, number one, I think we got to give full marks to Ken Holland. Ken Holland rarely gets any praise in this market from fans or media alike. I think that he did a masterful job the way he handled the Evander Kane situation, or contract negotiations, sending him up to market, saying, "Hey, man, go get it, go find that deal. Good luck." And then him realizing that the other contract wasn't there, that the 7, whatever 6, 8, 10, whatever million a year he thought, it wasn't there. And as far as his comment about the cap's a shitty thing, yeah, I mean that's just the way it is. But you're a little bit of a product of kind of what's going on and his reputation. So I'm not here to beat up on Evander Kane's reputation, but there were some question marks surrounding the player
for sure,
and that's why the contract is where it's at. So if there weren't those question marks, I don't believe he would have been in the same situation. So. Actually, the way it worked out with San Jose, the way it worked out here in Edmonton, it's probably a really good fit for everyone involved. But there's money found for those players that are required, that feel that the teams feel are worth a certain level. And $5 million is nothing to sneeze at, but I think he's probably short a couple of million on what he's really valued.
Oh, and he was short many million last year in what he gave them versus what he was paid. And in the NHL, you win by finding value. And they've found value here in Evander Kane. This year, this is where the proof's going to be in the pudding, though. It's one thing to bring him in and say, okay, let's keep her on a good path here for 3.5 months, and everybody wins, and then you can all part ways happily, and that's what we thought this was going to be. Well, they decided to hop back into bed together, and now this is where you figure out, okay, with the contract firmly in place, and it's not about playing for that next contract right now. This will be interesting to see. But Evander Kane certainly showing some personality yesterday and comments that had us all laughing. Before we let you go, Struddy, I wanted to ask you about the Nathan McKinnon contract. I'm sure it stood out to you. It stood out to me when it's announced 8 years, $12.6 million. What did you make of that specific number?
Well, I had some discussions with people, and they were saying that he wouldn't go higher than McDavid. And I said, well, why wouldn't he? Well, why wouldn't
you mean before?
Is there? Well, before he got the deal, yeah. Why would his contract not be more than McKinnon? I don't understand, or sorry, more than McDavid. I mean, yeah, you respect McDavid, but he's not the ceiling. You can go above him. You can go more than you wouldn't want to have that number. Well, why wouldn't you? You don't think Nathan McKinnon thinks he's the best player on the planet? That's the way these top guys think. They think that they are the best or can be the best and should be compensated as such. And so I didn't understand it. Well, that's higher than Connor McDavid. Who cares? Who cares what the number is? Because you know what? Within a couple of years, there'll be 2, 3, 5, 10 players, 20 players more than Nathan McKinnon. I bet you by the end of that contract. So I think you have to, you respect Connor McDavid, but who cares? You're like, this is my number. I can go over top of him. I just won a Stanley Cup. My numbers are pretty impressive as far as point title, but this sense there, or this idea that McDavid is the top number in the NHL. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
So do you think that by going 12.6 specifically, that a statement is trying to be made? Like, give me the player's perspective, because guys pay attention to this stuff. And when other players see, oh, what did McKinnon sign for? 12.6? Does that eyebrow go up? And do you think it's that number specifically for that reason? It's $100,000 more than McDavid.
I don't care if it's $10,000 more. There's a statement being made. He thinks he should be paid as the best player in the league. That's the way it is. That's just a number. So when you sit down, and he has talked often about how he felt he was underpaid for this last contract, and I can't disagree with him. I don't think anyone could disagree with him, saying that he did not perform well over the value of his last contract. I'll call it $6 million a year. So now he pretty much doubles. Get up there, and he thinks that he's worth it. But keep in mind, like, I'll take the emotion out of it. This is an 8-year contract, right?
Yeah.
So the salary cap's expected to jump, a significant jump. So I think that within short order, we'll be talking about this guy being underpaid again because of what he can
You
bring.
think by the end of this deal, we'll talk about that?
Well, the end of the deal, but I'd say within 4 or 5 years, I think you're going to say this is a pretty good deal.
I mean, age will become an issue for him. That's the difference, right? Age is going to catch up in this contract. Well. Yeah, he does.
But he skates really well. I think the only thing I'd worry about Nathan McKinnon, he's such a powerful skater, and he does play a pretty physical game. I worry about injuries with that guy, right? I don't think even if he slows down, whatever, at 2%, 3%, he's still really fast. Like, this is same with Connor McDavid. Like, I think his legs, his game should age pretty well. This isn't, a guy that is average signing into 38, and then by the time you get there, you look like you're skating with only one blade on your.
Can I make a boring counterpoint that people are going to be like, they're going to doze off while I'm doing this? Because I hear what you're saying, and I think it's juicy, right? 12.6. Ooh, he thinks he's better than Connor. Oh, right. That's what people do.
Yeah.
His general manager even came out and gave him the label generational player, right? McFarland said that about McKinnon, which I don't recall having heard a ton about Nathan McKinnon. It's almost like he turned himself into a generational player, but he didn't start that way. But nonetheless, when Connor McDavid did his deal, and you'll remember he was going to be at 13.25. He backed it off to 12.5. There was a deal in place that was going to be a little bit more. His percentage of the cap that when that deal kicked in, I believe was 79.5. That put Connor at about 15.7% of the team's total available cap. If the cap goes to in the 83.5 range, which I've seen some projections out there, let's say it goes to 83.5 next season, that puts McKinnon right in and around 15% of his team's cap. So from a total percentage of team cap, his deal actually comes out a little bit less than Connor's at the time that McDavid signed his deal. And I think when you're talking about these long deals and like hundreds of millions of dollars, I think percentage of team cap really is a big focus during the negotiation. It's less about, the dollar, the 12.6 and more percentage of team cap. So, you can look at it one way and say, yeah, he came in over the top, or you can look at it the boring way and go, he came in just below. Probably makes a little bit of sense, but that's not nearly as juicy. And I probably just put everybody to sleep.
But someone had to break that ceiling, right? So now the next guy, who is it? Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, like those guys are going to walk right by him. They're going to walk right by him like he's standing still within the next couple
of years. Would you agree with
right?
me in saying that this wouldn't have bothered McDavid one bit? Like, I think he's probably like, good, like let her buck, man,
But why does he care? Like, to me, that's someone else's business. Someone makes $100,000 more than you. Who cares? You've been making that for the last 4 years or whatever it is. Like, it's not like he's been, listen, we can all probably agree that McDavid's underpaid, but as the highest paid player in the league, it's hard to, really say, oh my God, this guy is really getting screwed here. So his time will come. His contract negotiation will come. But before that, there's Austin Matthews, and that starts next summer. And I think that contract number could be massive as well, no matter where it is.
Yeah. And Dregs and I are going to dig into that next. All right. No matter where it is, just a slight little troll job there. That almost got by me. I'm tweeting that as a promo just so Leafs fans jump all over you. Jason Strudwick suggesting Matthews is gone. Is that what you said?
I'm saying that he'll have a lot of options. There'll be a lot of teams that want to sign him. So I can't wait. I honestly can't wait to see how that plays out between their GM and not having an extension. Their captain are going to have to be renegotiated next summer. Can you imagine?
He's not the captain. He's the alternate captain, you mean?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. They're let's say their top player. Yeah. If he doesn't sign an extension going into the next season,
you're going to be honestly, on overdrive like every second day.
I don't deserve it.
Yeah.
I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that kind of juice in my life. I please let that happen.
All right, Struddy, we're going to let you go because I know you got to go sprinting out the door. That's why we all got up at this ungodly hour. But thanks, pal. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys.
All right, that was the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Coming up, Darren Dreger for Takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. Lots more to come, folks. Joined now by Sterling Dirk, right inside the beautiful store over at Mr. Dirk. Sterling, time for a little rapid fire. You up for it?
I'm ready. Here we go.
All right, true or false? You took on title sponsorship of this podcast for the sole purpose of fixing Jason Strudwick's mess.
True. His wife came begging for help.
It's going to be a long, beautiful relationship. It's going to take us a while, pal. All right, true or false? If someone's frustrated looking at their wardrobe, doesn't like their options, it's immediately $1,500 to make any change.
False. You start with one item, you build it up. It's like anything in life. You just need to kind of start placing those pieces and then adding more and more, but it doesn't need to happen all at once.
True or false? Suits are the main thing that Mr. Dirk offers.
False. Actually, we carry a wide array of product from jeans, shoes, socks, underwear, t-shirts, casual wear. I mean, we specialize in tailoring, but we are head to toe for all of our clients from weekend to regular everyday office.
Great stuff. Check out the shop just off White Avenue at 102nd Street. And for all their stock, visit them online, mrdirk.com. Thanks, Sterling. I'll see you soon, buddy. I'm due.
We'll see you soon.
Oh, this is big.
we missed that sound. Time now for Takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. Just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. It is a massive, beautiful dealership. They got a fantastic showroom. It is the number one GMC dealership in all of Canada, 5 years running. And I cannot stress enough how accommodating and easy they make things at this dealership. I bought a truck there a couple of weeks ago. And man, do they make the process smooth and easy. No sitting in the chair for 45 minutes while the one person goes and talks to the other person, and then you got to wait for them to come talk to you. None of that stuff. It's streamlined. It's easy. The buying process is great. Go see Phil and the crew at Sherwood Buick GMC and tell them that Got Your Back sent you as we check in with Darren Dreger, who, unless I'm mistaken, Dregs, I think you're a GMC guy too, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I've got a 2019 GMC Sierra AT4.
Oh, the AT4. The AT4.
Beautiful package. Ooh. Yeah, and you know, as you're doing the read there, I'm feeling a level of jealousy that's bubbling inside of me. You know what? I own the truck, so it's a beautiful vehicle, but I was thinking of getting something new this summer. And we just can't get the product here in Ontario. It's impossible. So
yeah.
I'm just going to sit tight. Yeah.
Well,
Clearly you don't have those issues.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. And again, to continue the plug here, that's the one thing about Sherwood Buick GMC. They can actually get their hands on trucks. Their stock is pretty good. I picked the one I wanted and I had it in like 4 or 5 days. And for the most part, they've got stock. And that's one of the things that they're, when they're that big, they've got a lot of buying power. So stock is not an issue. And on used vehicles too. Huge inventory of used vehicles. Okay. Interesting day in Toronto yesterday, Dregs. It felt different to listen to a general manager sit and talk so openly about his own contract situation. Normally we're grilling GMs about the players and contracts and what deals you're going to do. But Kyle Dubas was a little bit on the hot seat answering questions about his own contract, but that's the position he was put in. Those questions had to be asked. How do you think he handled himself in that situation?
Yeah, I think he did very well. And I know you're going to eventually get it to Austin Matthews. I think he did well as well, talking about, his contract future with the Toronto Maple Leafs. You might as well be open and clear. And look, Dubas knows what's on the line here. If the Toronto Maple Leafs are punted from the playoffs in round 1, maybe even round 2 again this year, well, inevitably, they're going to have to endorse change. And that might start with Dubas. Maybe it extends to the coaching staff and on it goes. And I would say traditionally, the Maple Leafs' recent history have gone about it this way with their management types. I mean, Brendan Shanahan's contract as a senior manager there basically got to its month of expiration before, he signed a new multi-year deal a year or so ago, whatever it was. So there's no level of animosity here. I'm sure if the Leafs had approached Dubas and said, hey, we like the body of the work here and we'd like to extend you, but only by 3 years, he would have entertained that. But as he said in his media availability, he wants the body of the work to be measured. Hey, you flip the script there. He might be in a beautiful position at the expiration date of this contract. If the Leafs do well, how well, we'll find out. Well, maybe that gives him more bargaining power or more leverage on the open market if things don't go so well in that negotiation.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate on that point. You make a good point, but what happens if the Toronto Maple Leafs, with all these expectations that they have, everybody's talking like they're just going to be a playoff team, and they most likely will be. But even playoff teams hit the skids sometimes in a season. So what happens if between the start of the season and, say, Christmas, the Leafs go on a 3.5-week skid where they're not playing very good, they're middle of the pack in the standings, things are not great. We saw it with the Oilers last season. Is it possible that if, the Leafs aren't achieving in the early going, we could be talking about Dubas's future in the moment and whether he is given another trade deadline as GM?
Yeah, it's possible, Ryan. And I think that's fair. When you go into the final season of your contract, be it as a coach or a general manager, to use the term lame duck applies. So if the unexpected happens and they flounder in the first quarter, first half of the season, I think it would be considered. I guess the one thing that I would wonder out loud, though, is who's out there that's available that's better than what they have. And it doesn't have to be somebody out there. They can elevate within. They've got Lawrence Gilman, who, has been interviewed for a variety of NHL general manager jobs. He's available. Maybe Brendan Shanahan jumps into the GM chair, for the foreseeable future. So I think it's unlikely, just given the talent of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that they're going to do what we're talking about here and just crumple out of the gate. I think they're a better club than that. But if they do, again, given the reality of the situation with management, I think anything could be considered.
Maybe if the goaltending doesn't hold, as my eyebrow goes way up right now. For people listening, my eyebrow is way up right now. What if the goaltending doesn't hold? It'll be interesting to see in Leafland. The other big contract talk, of course, was Austin Matthews. Pierre LeBrun being Pierre LeBrun and needling at the side of Matthews' head in his press conference. And here's how Matthews kind of brushed Pierre back, but obviously entertained the conversation as well.
I appreciate the question, but I'm not going to be entertaining this question all year. I understand why you guys want to talk about it, but at the same time, there's nothing that can be done. I'm under contract for 2 more years. I can't extend for another 10 months. So I'll just kind of leave it at that, but I appreciate the question.
Really hard for there to be much of substance right now, Dregs, because this is a little bit off in the distance. But from afar, I'm listening to people who are close to this and what you guys and Pierre and people are saying. The narrative seems to be that Matthews does, in fact, really want to re-up with the Maple Leafs. Those are the whisperings and the things that I'm hearing if people are handicapping this. Yeah.
And I believe that to be true as well, but a lot can change in time. And in this case, Austin Matthews has the luxury of time. Fair question, and we're going to continue to speculate it, certainly in Toronto media, for the next 10 plus months. Judd Moldaver, who's the agent for Austin Matthews, is going to be one of the more popular player agents for the next 10 months because we're all going to be pestering him. Oh, what does it look like? Do you think he's eager? The Nate McKinnon contract extension with the Colorado Avalanche, immediately social media is going, all right, well, who's going to be the next highest paid? And you think of Austin Matthews, and I look at that contract, and I believe it will be north of $13 million on an annual average salary. The one thing that kind of frustrates me from time to time is when we in the media, Ryan, try and dive into the head of the player or into the dressing room when there's alleged turmoil. And I'm not saying that's the case, in Toronto, but we've heard that applied to Winnipeg and some other teams. Unless you're in those rooms or you're in the headspace or you've actually had a legit heart-to-heart conversation with the player, how do you know what Austin Matthews is thinking? I think that he loves Toronto. I think that
he said that
it's a metropolis. He's an outgoing kind of guy. He likes different things. So there are pockets of living in Toronto where he can disappear and maybe doesn't have to be Austin Matthews, the Toronto Maple Leafs NHL superstar. So there's value in that. Is it conceivable that he wants to go to a bigger American market? I guess, but we're either going to believe him, take his word as fact and value it, or we're not. And mass media probably is going to continue to speculate until you get to that place where the Maple Leafs can re-up him, they can extend him. What I know with certainty is that money is not going to be the issue here, right? Toronto is going to pay Austin Matthews whatever it takes to extend that deal. But I like the way he handled it, and I think that it was fair for him to say, okay, I'm gonna address this today, and then that's it. Because you know what it's like. You've been involved in those scrums over the years where you have no choice. The top pending unrestricted free agents or free agents come into Edmonton. Well, you've got to talk to them and you've got to ask the contract questions. So I think there was value in him just saying, okay, I'll deal with this today and then let's move on, because I'm not talking about it moving forward.
The question Pierre was asking was, do the results of the team play into your decision that you're eventually going to make here? That was what Pierre was getting at when he asked Austin Matthews the contract question. What do you think the answer to that question is, Dregs?
I think it has to be. And I think that, you could ask any other player on any other team. Again, that would be sought after, and undoubtedly he would be as a free agent, or if they get to a place where they know he doesn't want to stay in Toronto. And that would be a complete mind shift. It would be. But why? And I'm not saying that you're saying that's unreasonable. That's just the reality, right? Yeah. You look at Johnny Gaudreau, you look at some of the other top free agents. I mean, that's the beauty of managing your contract status the way that these superstar players manage them. It's not just about the money and getting all your money in bonus structure or getting all your money up front. You want to make sure that you're at an age when that term expires where you literally have your pick of the litter. Hey, if the Toronto Maple Leafs aren't as good as Matthews is hoping when it comes time for him to make that decision, then he's got to make a business decision. But, I look at Morgan Riley. I look at some of the other guys who have signed up long-term in Toronto, and they see that this is going to be a Stanley Cup contender. And I don't believe that that's likely going to change in the next 2 years.
You got your TSN top 50 done?
I submitted it last night.
Did you? Did. So I won't grind you too hard. I'll put you on the spot here. Like Matthews, and I'm finishing mine today. So you're going to have to answer this, and I'm not.
I think I can give you my top 4.
Can you? Okay, give me. Will the Quizmaster be mad at us? I know he listens to this.
He's
podcast.
Only a part-time Quizmaster now. He's got no say.
All right.
What does it matter?
He does. Okay.
I went McDavid.
Yep.
Matthews.
Oh, 2. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Makar.
Yep.
And then let me see. Hold on. I better double check this. I went McDavid. No, I didn't. I went McDavid, Makar, Matthews.
That was a big mistake.
You ready?
Yeah.
Draisaitl. 4.
Wow. Yeah.
5, Vasilevsky, and 6, Nathan McKinnon.
Wow. Okay, so I this is a preliminary list for me right now. I've got McDavid, Makar, Matthews, Draisaitl, McKinnon. So we're pretty close.
Yeah, top 4, same. Yeah. I cheated a little bit, Ryan.
How so? You cheater.
Well, because I see so little value in these exercises. I mean, I understand why we do it, because it's content fodder.
Is cringing. Yeah. He's cringing right now.
So I literally had him send me 3 unnamed ballots.
Yeah.
So people who have actually invested and done the work, and then I just perused them in comparison to my own. Now, I didn't make any changes, but I laughed out loud at some of the names that were actually on. And I'm not going to say the names because I don't want to disrespect the players. But like some of them, like one guy had Jack Eichel 50th, or one person. I don't know who it is. It's unnamed.
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else.
So you're saying you cheated. You were given homework and you just flat out cheated. Like you didn't do your own work. You just copied?
No, I didn't copy. I had done mine, but I was curious. I wanted to make some comparisons just to make sure, out of respect to a player who should be in the top 50, I didn't omit or miss.
Where do you have Shesterkin?
That's why. Oh, pretty high, to be fair.
Yeah, me too. And again,
10.
my list is preliminary.
I've got him 10.
I have him at 10 too. Did he give you I haven't submitted my list, so you couldn't have cheated off my list.
No. I have Hedman 9, Kaprizov 8, Kucherov 7. There's my top 10.
Oh, okay. Now, and to be clear, this is projecting for this season, who we think is going to be the top 50 for this season.
Where do you have Sidney Crosby? Where do you have Crosby?
Like 16, 15, something like that.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, I have him at 14.
Yeah.
I have him at 14.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, if I knew the date of when this was going to come out, I would promote it for the Quizmaster, but I don't know. But keep an eye on tsn.ca for the annual top 50 that Dregs takes so seriously. Thanks for doing this, Dregs. You're gonna join Pierre and I a few times this year on the other podcast.
Yeah. Well, only because, and I did this one essentially as a freebie. And I understand it's promotional value.
Today, so I'm not paying you for today?
Nah.
Oh, well, we're going to keep going then. I'm not going to wrap up. Let's keep going like another half hour.
I thought it had promotional value because I'm trying to help your other podcast out. And I also felt bad in the promo that we did for social media in, bumping up the LeBrun Rishaug podcast, where I literally said, I just don't want you talking. So I knew you do most of the talking in this one. So it's kind of balanced.
You were really hard on me. I've done for people who don't know, we've done 2 promos for the podcasts, and each one I said to Dregs, okay, all you need to do is rip me a little bit. Like I couldn't shut him up. Like it just flowed so naturally out of you to just chew right into me.
I know it, and it's something that I've got to work on, not just with you, but with people in general.
Yeah,
if I sense a weakness,
you're mean.
If I sense a weakness, I just pounce, and it's a form of bullying. It's normally good natured. I'm not trying to be a bully, but I've got to work on that. So that's one of the things that I'm focusing on.
Darren Dreger with a little bit of introspection, folks.
Oh, this is big.
All right, that was Takeaways with Darren Dreger, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. Thanks, Dregs.
All right, buddy.
Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards, and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary. And before we wrap up the podcast, folks, notable reporting yesterday that the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage is going to have continued hearings on October 4th regarding Hockey Canada and the alleged incident from 2018, previously alleged incidents from 2003 as well. Andrea Skinner, the interim chair from Hockey Canada, will be testifying. Michael Brindamore, the former chair, will also testify. And in the meeting following that one on October 4th, Bob Nicholson, who is the former president and CEO of Hockey Canada from 1998 to 2014, will also be called in to testify. So the sentiment out there is people really want answers on what happened in these incidents, what happened with Hockey Canada through these years. And so the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage going to continue conducting these hearings. They had the first hearings June 20th after news broke of that alleged sexual assault involving players on Canada's World Junior team from 2018. And of course, the federal government froze the funding to Hockey Canada a couple of days later, and corporate sponsors, of course, pulled out their supports. And then further scrutiny for Hockey Canada when the Canadian press reported that it had been using a reserve fund built in part by hockey registration fees to settle some of those uninsurable claims, including settlement of sexual assault cases. This has been a massive story in recent months. And then there was the second allegation against members of the 2003 World Junior team that surfaced back in July. So the Canadian Standing Committee on Heritage will continue their hearings. Bob Nicholson at some point will be part of those hearings. All right, that's going to wrap up episode 2 of season 2 here on the podcast. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Mr. Dirk, our brand new title sponsor, DLR Vinyl Products, high quality maintenance free vinyl fencing and decking with locations in Calgary and Edmonton, and of course, Sherwood Buick GMC, the number 1 GMC dealership in all of Canada for 5 years running. Thanks so much, folks. Training camp set to get underway. By the way, if you notice we didn't mention Ryan McLeod today, it's because I think there's a good chance that a contract will be signed, and by the time you listen to this, there may be news on that front, or there won't be. Either way, we'll follow up with that. Keep an eye on my Twitter feed, as that's going to be some reporting I'm going to be chasing here today if they can get a deal done with the projected third center for the Oilers. More Got Your Backs coming your way. Thanks for your downloads and your subscriptions. We'll talk to you real soon. Have yourselves a fantastic, what day is it? Thursday. Have a great Thursday, folks.